So when I was young child and a teenager living in Finland, I was always made to believe that because of my body shape, I was not worthy of love. And I can actually remember, I think I was like 8 years old, and I was told that I have big hips. At 8 years old, I'm positive that I did not have big hips at 8 years old, but that is what I always heard. And I grew up in 70s and 80s when, this and leading to 90s where first it was a very masculine, straight body shape for women, broad shoulders and long legs and narrow hips in the 70s to what they called heroin chic in the 90s. I don't look like I am a shapely short woman and I was made to believe that that is not lovable. And it doesn't matter what my personality is, it doesn't matter who I am as a person, because my body looks like that. I don't deserve love. I'm not lovable. So this led me to search for anyone, absolutely anyone, who would show me affection and who would show me that they love me, even if it was a really strange way. And I ended up with a boyfriend who was very abusive, both emotionally and physically. And in the process, I also ended up with a stomach cancer. At 21 years old, I was diagnosed with stomach cancer, and it didn't make any sense to me at that point because I was very healthy. And how can a 21-year-old get a stomach cancer? That's unheard of. But it led to the point that at 23, it was actually my boyfriend who beat me to death. It was one of the nights that he was out with his buddies. He came home. I woke up with him on top of me, beating my stomach. That was his way of being in control of me, but it didn't show any physical. There was no physical evidence of him beating me, so it was basically my word against him. And that's what I learned, that he's going to beat me on the stomach. And it became this weird normal, and I learned to take it like a champ because I knew he would be very apologetic the next morning. But this time it was different, and there was this darkness in his eyes. There was like evil in his eyes. And the last thing I remember is him strangling me and sticking his teeth to my eyebrow. And I still have the scar on my eyebrow. I do makeup for a living, so I'm really good at covering it up, but it is still there.
My God. Why? So I understand that he was abusive and he wanted to be in control of you. I can also imagine in his way he cared for you and he loved you. So why would he intend to kill you or to bring you to that point where you wouldn't exist anymore?
I don't think it was his intention to kill me. It was, I think it was more about him being extremely drunk and he just lost control. He wasn't consciously there anymore, and there was so much anger in him just towards life. And after my NDE, I have been able to look at it, much more objectively than I did back then. That it wasn't really about me. I just happened to be the target that he took all his frustration, anxiety, anger out.
Yeah, it's a very healthy way of having processed it.
It's been 30 years, so I've had some time to process it. It was not that easy for, I would say, the first 10 years.
Definitely want to get into that, but tell me first, what happened once he was beating you, and then you passed out? What happened then?
So I have no idea how we got to the hospital. The last thing I remember was him sticking his teeth to my eyebrow. And then I came to at the hospital. I was standing kind of at the back wall, but I was looking sort of down, not directly like from the ceiling down, but I was looking sort of down. And I'm looking at this scene where there's somebody on the hospital bed, there's a heart monitor flatlining, and at first I'm like confused, like, why am I here? And then I realized that it's me on the hospital bed. And this sheer panic just rushed through me. But as soon as I felt that panic, I was removed from the scene, emotionally removed from the scene. All of that panic and fear was lifted. And instead of that, I felt this incredible amount of love and peace and harmony, and I knew everything is okay. And as I am watching this scene of my tiny body lifeless on the bed, there's so many thoughts in my mind, and one of them was like, how did I ever fit in that? It's us as beings are extremely big, and when you are looking at yourself from that perspective, it's hard to understand how do we fit in these fleshy vehicles that we use. And as I'm watching that, I felt my grandparents approach me, and it was the most amazing feeling. There was no awkwardness at all. I didn't think at any point that, wait, you're dead. How are you here with me? It was just pure joy of seeing and feeling them again. And then it was the most natural thing that, of course, they are here with me. And they were there to tell me that I have a choice to make. I can either go with them or I can decide to come back here. And besides my grandparents, there were other people with me too. I can tell you that I know who they are, but I can't put a name on it. And I think that is one of the most beautiful things for us as human beings to learn too, that there is these beings that we know, but there's no name. They are always there to support you. A lot of people call them guardian angels. A lot of people call them God. It's the name doesn't matter, and that's usually what I like to tell people too. That you don't need to put a label, aka name, on something to know that they are there to support you. I'm getting chills all over, so I know that they are. Both yours and mine are there to support us right now, and they want to make everybody to know that they are always there. So as I'm talking to my grandparents, I am watching my lifeless body, the doctors working on me, but I can also see my ex-boyfriend in the other room yelling like, I didn't do anything, or I didn't do it. And I can feel the panic from them, but then I also can see what's happening outside. It was like I had this 360 view of everything going on. And one of the biggest realization for me was that everything was so alive. Even the trees in Finland in the middle of winter, they were so alive. We think that when things freeze that they kind of die, but there is so much life in them still. And that's why we get new leaves in the spring on the trees, and the grass grows again. It subtracts to rest, and then it comes back again. So I was able to see this, and everything felt just really normal and comfortable. That it was like, yes, exactly, this is exactly how it's supposed to be. And I was able to learn so many things about life in 20 minutes. So I was clinically dead for 20 minutes. And I got like these downloads of information in me from all these people who were around me in 20 minutes that I believe that it would take you decades on university level studying to actually learn all that. And it feels like the information is installed in me, and it's whenever I need it, it's there. And this is actually available to all of us. We just have to know that it is there. And that's one of the biggest messages that I've been wanting to get across, that trust what's in here, because the answer is always in you. It is there. You just have to learn to listen to it and find it.
So tell me about these downloads, because of course we cannot speak about everything, but what were the main lessons or takeaways that you had almost immediately about your life, about what was happening in that moment?
Well, one of the biggest things, of course, was that I knew that I had created cancer in me, because we are, as human beings, we are emotional filters. And the more you put crap into your body, the more it's going to get stuck in there. It's like an air conditioning filter. If you don't clean it or replace it, it's going to get very clogged and yucky. Same way, we are emotional filters. And when you don't value yourself, when you keep putting more and more and more crap on you, you will get a physical illness. And so you are literally speaking it to existence. Now, did I ever think that, oh, I'm going to get a stomach cancer, or say that I'm going to get stomach cancer? No. But what I was doing, I was allowing somebody to beat me on my stomach. It was like, hello, there it is. I was shoving all these feelings of not enoughness into my gut. All of that, it just built up and created an illness. But at the same time, I also knew that once I decided to come back, the cancer would be gone, because it could not exist in my body when I know that I'm not that person anymore. I am this new version of me. So it was, I mean, the doctors couldn't find it in 24 hours. And I have to add here, because on the comments of several interviews that I've done before, is that it's dangerous to tell people that you can get rid of illness like that quickly. I want to say that whatever you believe in, whatever you know to be true, will be true to you. I am sharing my experience. It doesn't have to be true for you. And another thing that was made very, very clear to me is that we are eternal beings. There is no death. You're not going to heaven in clouds, or hell in underground, burn in flames. No, you unfortunately, you're not going anywhere. You're still going to be here. Now you can choose to go to different dimensions and things like that, but this is where it's at. We are it. We are the ones who are really, really expanding the universe and pushing things forward. So most of us like to be here, whether it's in spirit form or in human form. And our loved ones are always here looking after us. And that was probably the most comforting message for me, knowing that we're never alone. Never, never, never. It's whatever loneliness you feel in you, you are allowed to let go of it. And you can let go of it. And yes, you are always supported. But I think for us, it's because we are so accustomed to just looking at what is in front of us. And if you can't physically see it, it doesn't exist. And life is actually the opposite. Because whatever you believe to know to be true, that's what you're going to see in front of you. So it's the polar opposite. So those are like the main things that I learned.
So you went into this experience feeling as you were not enough, you were unworthy, because that's what was being told to you since you were a child. And I can also imagine being in, an abusive relationship. There's also a sense that a lot of victims develop that is, if this is happening to me, I must deserve it. I mean, I'm not better than that because this is my reality. So it's sort of the mindset that also keeps you there, because you feel, well, that's probably, I'm not worthy of more, or I'm not worthy of somebody loving me in a different way. So when you were on the other side, where there's a lot of love and acceptance, how do you deal with, these feelings of you not being worthy, you're not being good enough, you being deserving of a different treatment? How did that shift for you?
Well, when I was on the other side, I knew all that was lifted off me. I knew how loved and appreciated I am, how much I am love. So that really shifted it for me to when I came back to feel the appreciation for myself and building my self-confidence and being able to end that relationship finally. But it took me 10 years to forgive myself that I had put myself in that position. With all the knowing in the world, I am still a human being with human emotions, and it took me that long to finally stop blaming myself that I am the one who put myself in that situation. And the first year was also difficult because I was, like I said in the beginning, that looking at my body on the hospital bed, I couldn't figure out how I could possibly fit in that. So coming back, it was like I was trying to fit giant emotions in a shoebox, like the entire universe in the shoebox. So everything felt really, really big. And coming back, I because I had felt the universal love, the enormity of who we are as beings, I couldn't control my emotions and feelings and separate them from what other people were feeling. So I would feel things that other people were feeling. And it was hard because it was like, okay, this doesn't belong to me, but it is surging through my body because I was such an energetic magnet that I would feel everything. And I started to feel a little crazy. And there were many times when I thought that, okay, why did I come back? What's the point of all of this? Until I was able to build up that shield around me again, so that I am the one who's emitting this love and joy energy to other people rather than me taking on other people's crap and sorrow and anger and all that.
That definitely sounds like a very long but also very painful process to go through. Anybody that is maybe in a relationship where it feels like it's not in their best interest, it feels like it's transforming them into this kind of person that they don't want to be. What would be the first steps? Because I can imagine it's very easy to be on the outside and to say, well, just leave. But that's not as easy when you're in that relationship. So if you were be able to, connect with Ulla at that age that she was in this relationship, what kind of advice would you give her? What would you tell her?
I want to add to that before I give you my answer, that because I've heard from people even in recent years that why didn't you just leave? I want to add, and so that people who've never been in an abusive relationship, that is the most dangerous time for the victim in their life because the abuser is losing control. They are very unpredictable. And when an unpredictable person becomes even more unpredictable, that is when people die. So I want everybody to have empathy for those who are wanting to leave, but they don't know. And for anybody in this kind of relationship or abusive situation, I want you to know that you are worthy. You are worthy just because you are. That's it. It doesn't matter what anybody's done to you in the past. It doesn't matter what you've done or said in the past. You are worthy. And once you start to build that up, it becomes easier to start talking to people. And you can talk to people. There are places where you can call anonymously. If you're afraid for your life and you don't want your name out there, there are places where you can call. There are people who care. I care. And it's small, small steps. But know that you are truly worthy and loved.
That's so important for everybody to hear. But now I also wanted to dive deeper into how our emotions actually cause disease in our bodies. So if we look online, there's a lot of research that says so. And I want to understand in your case how those emotions that maybe I would think they were not very processed, you were just probably shoving them down, but how they got to the point that they actually created this disease in your body.
Like I mentioned before, it is that your body is an emotional filter. And when you are not in the flow with your emotions, with your thoughts, when you are restricting, and you are always restricting when you are angry, when you're scared, when you have these feelings of not enoughness, and all of these, what we call negative emotions. I want to add here that negative emotions are not bad. You should not avoid them. But when you start collecting them and holding on to them, it will affect how your body functions. And when you start to, I don't want to say alter, when you start restricting how your body functions, and with those emotions, you will restrict how your body functions, they will start to collect dust, dirt, and it starts to create an illness. And the more you focus on those stuff that feels yucky and crunchy and stuck, the more it's going to get stuck on your body. And we as humans, we have a strong belief in illness anyway. For whatever reason, we come here as these guinea pigs or lab rats that, okay, I'm going to come here and I'm going to have that disease so we can figure out what kind of solution there is. So it is kind of a two-bladed sword that, yes, we do want to find solutions, but at the same time, why do we choose that? I don't know. For me personally, it's after that, it's been very obvious to me that I don't need to be sick. It's a choice. I know it sounds absolutely insane, but it is a choice for me. And generally I get sick when I'm just beyond exhausted physically. And I get sick for a day and then I was like, okay, I'm good. that was a release for me. But yeah, the answer to your question really is that it's because we are emotional filters. We collect dirt and dust and we won't let go of it. So that creates illness in your body.
Yeah, that's so important to understand how to manage and feel our emotions so we don't let these kinds of things accumulate.
And we like to find a way to blame somebody else for our own misery. And I'm going to take my own mother as an example here. My mom and dad divorced 47 years ago. My mom is still holding on to that anger. And I've told her so many times that that is not healthy. It was 47 years ago. You keep bringing this to today, and it is going to be really active energy in you right now. And it's just it's making you miserable. And it's going to create, I mean, it actually has already created illness in her. And but I mean, it's such a learned thing that we always think that we have to like think through these and we have to keep them active and we have to just keep saying the same thing over and over and over again because somehow we are justified to be angry and disappointed, whatever, and then the somehow the other person is going to get away with something if we don't. And it to me it's always like, well, but I don't know what they're getting away with, but I am the one feeling this. They're not. They don't feel angry because of what they did to me. They might feel other things, but I'm the one who's angry. I'm the one who's uncomfortable. I am going to choose me and I'm going to choose something different and I'm going to let them be who they are. They don't have that hold on.
And because you mentioned this, so many people, we tend to, hold on to those emotions, especially when we feel somebody has wronged us. And we'll just go to all these ends to justify, but I was right, or they shouldn't have treated me this way. Now, of course, in the case of your previous relationship that we talked about earlier, I think we can all agree that you were a victim and your ex-boyfriend was not a very nice person. How did you manage to release that resentment, that hate, that anger towards him? Because I imagine you've had those feelings for him as well building up. So what are your feelings or thoughts about that person now, and how have you managed to let that go?
Well, lucky and not lucky for me, I had the near death experience because all that was released at that second. Now, I haven't seen him or talked to him, heard from him, heard of him in 30 years. So I have no feelings. It's very neutral. It was a human being that existed in my reality 30 years ago. But that said, to let go of anger and resentment is not easy. It is never easy. I've had things since, like it's when you have an NDE, it does not, life doesn't magically just become like dancing in rose fields and being a bliss bunny. You're still going to have contrast in your life because that's why we're here. We are here to decide what we want and what our desires, and all this contrast is just kind of helping you define what it is that you actually want. So I've had those feelings, but at the same time, it became very clear to me that I'm the one who's choosing to hold on to these feelings. And it has changed into when I get angry, it, it's like a mini explosion. I scream, I yell, and that's it. That was it. I release that. I allow myself to feel the anger. I'm not trying to hide it or stuff it down. I feel it and I release it. And then it's going to be like, oh, okay, that was it. It's kind of like toddlers when they have like this screaming match where they're just screaming, and then afterwards they're like, okay, let's go get ice cream, and it's all good. The most difficult part is to put that stuff aside and not go back to it and keep saying that, yeah, but you did this, yeah, but. And it's just a skill. It is just learning to do that and knowing that that's your choice. Like you have that choice and it is your right to choose that. Nobody can tell you how you live your life. Nobody. Only you know what is best for you. So, and that's like, that is always my message, that this worked for me, might work for you, take it or leave it, but I don't know, try it, see what it feels like. Next time you get angry at your spouse or your kid or your friend, anybody, let it flash through you like a mini explosion and see what happens when you just put it aside and leave it there. It doesn't have to follow you for next 50, 60 years.
So what else, if anything, has changed in your life since, and how have you learned to deal with these changes?
Well, one of the changes was that because I was told many, many times that you can't do that and you can't be that, and biggest change for me was that watch me because so it was just a few years after my NDE, I moved to US. I was always told that I cannot become a makeup artist. It's not a profession. You'll never make any money. That's, excuse me. It's just not a profession. Like people would laugh at me when I said that I wanted to become a makeup artist. Well, I've worked with very, very, very many A-list actors in Hollywood. I've been nominated for awards. I've made a ton of money doing it. So watch me. That became my thing. That when people tell me that, oh, you can't do that, it's, yeah, watch me. And it's not like this spiteful, arrogant. It's just like, I'm sorry you think that life can be easier and comfortable for you, but it really, really can. And I mean, I've done so many things, and it's one of my biggest pride is my children, because I've allowed them to be exactly who they are and just watch them grow to be like, my oldest one is 19 and he's becoming this amazing man. He knows exactly what he wants. He's known that for a long time, and there's never been a point where I've been or he's been that, oh, you can't do that, maybe we should look at something else because that's out of your reach. It's always, yes, of course you can do that. Let's see what we can do to make it happen. It's, the schools that he wanted to go to and courses he wanted to take or job that he wanted to get. He's always done that. And he truly, truly believes that, yes, all of this is available. Do I want this? Yes, I want this. How is it going to come to me? None of my business. It is going to come to me because I want it, and it is my right as a human being. And same thing with my little one. They're just amazing, amazing human beings. And when I hear from other people that, oh, you did such a great job, I'm like, well, I didn't do anything. And that's the trick. I allowed them to be exactly who they are. I listened. Maybe, I mean, I don't know, maybe that's the great job that I did, because I listened. I provided them with a very safe and secure environment to grow up. They know there's always going to be food. They know I'm always there to listen. But other than that, it's all them. And they are absolutely magnificent human beings.
Do you think it has anything to do with the fact that in Finland, I would imagine it's very much a culture of, just don't, yeah, how would I say it? Jenteloven. Do you know that? Yeah, so just be normal, like don't be outside of the mold. Do you think that was at play?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's part of it. And Finnish culture is very jealous anyway. So you don't want to show off in any way. You always want to like blend in. You don't want to talk to people. And that was just so not me. And of course, it's that's where my mom grew up in, and that's where my dad grew up in, and they didn't know any different, and they had heard these things from their parents, so they just kind of regurgitating what they learned. And yeah, so I'm sure that's where all that nonsense was put in me, and I'm very lucky that I was able to get rid of it.
And I think that's what makes you very strong, the fact that you were able to move on with your plans and with what you wanted despite that resistance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting to see, my younger one is 13 years old, and going to school trips and things like that. It's just how other parents interact with their children and how they parent the kids, which is like very weird, strict way for me. Like, okay, we're all here together. Let your child be who he is or she is. But of course, I never say that. It's not my place to go and say anything about that. But it's interesting to see, and but I love that my children notice that. They know. They always say that, oh, you're so different, and their friends love to come here. They love to come here because they get to be who they are. And I mean, it's never like this crazy rowdy boy party. No, they just feel very comfortable here because that's the environment I have created for my children. And you mentioned like how my experience was so different from my own children. It's been interesting because I'm writing my memoir at the moment. And this spring I was writing the chapter when I graduated high school, while my son was graduating high school, and the contrast between where I was and where he is, it is so big. And so it made me cry and laugh at the same time because I felt sorry for the girl that I was and what I had to go through, but at the same time I'm like so joyful that my son has this opportunity of being in like the healthiest teen relationship you could ever imagine. That's his relationship with his girlfriend, and graduating with, just being in that really loving environment and having so much joy in his life. It was amazing.
But in that case, you probably wouldn't be the mother that you are today, and you wouldn't have been able to raise children as you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There's that's the silver lining here. I got to be who I am today because of the experiences that I had, and as difficult as it was 30 years ago, or 35 years ago when I was in the middle of that crazy relationship. It's looking at it today. Oh yeah, it's I am so much stronger because of it, and I'm able to help so many people because of what my experiences were. So it was not for nothing. Our experiences are never for nothing.
Absolutely. Now, Ulla, for anybody that wants to know more about you or wants to connect with you, where can they find you?
They can find me on my website, ullagodan.com, or you can also find me on Substack. I write my weekly articles there, and yeah, and it's free. So it's really fun.